Hi everyone, and welcome to this session. Today I'm going to talk about the ISO 27701 standard, a norm for Privacy Information Management System, or PIMS. We'll see during this presentation how it can help driving a sustainable privacy compliance program. So the objective of today's sessions are mainly threefold. First, I'll explain what the ISO 27701 is all about. Then we'll describe its benefits in the current business landscape. And finally, we'll provide some guidance on how to initiate a successful program, including some tips to overcome roadblocks and pitfalls. My name is Laurent Deyer. I'm a professional active in the field of cyber and information security risk management for more than 20 years. So before we jump into the content of this presentation, I would like to start with these statements that I like to remind my customers and my colleagues. You can do security without privacy, but you can't do privacy without security. And if you look at the recent example of that Finnish clinic, which announced last September that they had that patient data stolen, basically the bad guys demanded 40 bit counts, so roughly 500k euros, or they threatened to publish those records. And that database contained sensitive information, including social security numbers and the doctor's notes. So finally, the hackers asked 500 euros to the victim to avoid publishing their data. In fact, the sensitive data were found not to be encrypted, and apparently the system root password was very weak. So now, when you look at the evolution of organizations in Switzerland getting ISO 27701 certified, you can see that it remained pretty stable until 2014, 2015. Then you see an increase till 2018 and a big jump in 2019. So what we observe is the change in the type of companies looking for certification before and after the enforcement of privacy laws, and more specifically in Europe with the GDPR. Whereas before 2016, the focus was essentially on the protection of company confidential data and addressed to large outsourcing IT and services and telco, the paradigm shifted towards any companies willing to do business to business or provide consumer services. This also includes now small and medium business, including startups. This can be explained by the fact that any companies willing to do business nowadays will most probably at some point be involved in the processing of personal data. On top of that, with the adoption of cloud services, end users are worried on how well their data are safe and adequately protected. The biggest change comes from the fact that now the requirements for certification is not coming from IT any longer, but it's coming from the business. And finally, the EU Commission also released other regulation under the Digital Market Enablement and the Cybersecurity Program, such as eIDAS for qualified signature, and the NIS for critical infrastructure, where ISO 27701 is becoming even more important. So ISO forms specialized system for worldwide standardization, and the ISO 27701 specify the requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and improving information security management system, or ISMS. This preserves the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information by applying risk management process, and it gives confidence to interested parties that risks are adequately managed. It is meant to be generic and intended to be applicable to all organizations, regardless of the type, the size, or the nature. So in the context of the 27701, in fact, the 27001 is designed to permit the addition of sector-specific requirements without the need to develop a new management system. So the 27701, which provide the requirements for privacy information system management, is therefore an extension of the 27701, as well as an extension of the 27702, which provide implementation guidance for information security. It specifies the PIMS-related requirements and provide guidance for the controllers and the processors holding responsibility and accountability for personal data processing. It also includes mapping, a mapping with the GDPR, and a mapping with other ISO norms such as the 27018, which gives further information for organizations acting as processor and providing public cloud services. So the use of this standard in conjunction with the ISO 27001 can, if desired, provide an independent verification of this evidence. In other words, is certifiable. In a nutshell, the 27701 adds requirements such as the establishment of role and responsibilities between processors and controllers, unifying privacy risk with information security risk. It also adds guidance for controls such as awareness, classification of information, access control, encryption, and so on. It will also provide guidance for implementation of supplier management or data transfer, and other specific measures such as the privacy by design. So why would the 27701 be a great tool to achieve a privacy compliance? So as more and more social and economic activities have place online, the importance of privacy and data protection has significantly been recognized. Of equal concern is the collection, use, and sharing of personal information to third parties without notice or consent of consumers. So 128 countries out of roughly 200 have put in place legislations to secure the protection of data and privacy. Therefore, most organizations have to deal with multiple privacy laws, creating a potential significant operational overhead to achieve, maintain, and demonstrate compliance. With the adoption of an international and recognized standard, companies have an opportunity to build a single management framework to address multiple compliance requirements. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you need to consider a new privacy law. And finally, because ISO is an international standard, it will significantly simplify the provision of evidence and assurance when dealing with interested parties, because it provides a common language and a taxonomy which is understood worldwide. So, to summarize, what are the key benefits for adopting the ISO 27701? First, compliance management. An organization complying with these requirements will generate evidence of how it handles the processing of data, of personal data, and this can be used to facilitate during an audit from interested parties, including the regulators. The market demand. As I explained to you, as companies are moving into digital and adopting cloud technologies, customers are asking for more assurance and trust prior, during, and after contracting with them. So not taking it seriously may simply prevent business to exist. Operational efficiency. We also show that in an ever-increasing compliance and regulation demand, added with a broad spectrum of different laws, implementing a common ground framework for privacy will provide a single skeleton on which it is easier to add local specificities, as opposed to recreate a specific framework for each and every single compliance need. At the end, it will result in a gain of efficiency and reduce your cost of operation. And finally, cyber threats. Even though it is not the gold bullet for cybersecurity, implementing an ISMS and the PIMS will increase the awareness within your organization and enhance your overall resilience to cyber attack. So now, how can we do that? Some best practices. So first and foremost, you should clearly specify your objective for implementing an ISO 27701. As an example, targeting certification won't have the same cost and constraints as if you first target to promote a culture of privacy. Likewise, addressing multiple laws doesn't always require a certification. It really all depends on the level of maturity that you want or need to achieve in a given time frame. So, as I told you, the ISO 27701 is an extension to the ISO 27001. So therefore, you have different trajectories. Either you already have an ISMS as aligned with ISO 27001. Therefore, it is the very simplest way for you to plug the privacy component into your existing management framework, depending on the scope that you have selected. If you don't have an ISMS, then in that case, you could either implement it sequentially, so first ISO 27001 followed by the privacy, or you could do it in parallel. I think I would advise to start doing it in parallel just for efficiency purposes. And in all cases, implementing those systems implies to set up a continuous improvement lifecycle, so the plan, do, check, act. Finding your key enablers is essential to succeed in this kind of project. People, find allies within your organization, get sponsorship. This is all about change management. Methodologies, don't reinvent the wheel. Adopt project management method in line with your company culture. Create visibility through well-defined communication plan and focus on quick wins. Tools, depending on the size and complexity of your company, you will select different tools and technologies that applies. So, typical roadblock that you may encounter when you launch such a project are the following. First, organization priorities. There is always a good reason to shift ISMS or PIMS projects as a second priority, mainly due to the fact that it doesn't generate tangible direct revenue stream until your customers really impose it. Change management, implementing ISMS and PIMS means changing the way we work and we behave, and you will always find people reluctant to that. So that's why you have to find allies into your organization who will influence those people. Lack of understanding is still an issue when you need to explain the value of such an initiative and also what it means concretely. So think about it when you create your business case, you have to be able to explain what it means concretely. And finally, budget estimate is not a trivial exercise for such an initiative. In terms of pitfalls, we usually observe problems when roles and responsibilities are not clearly set into the organization, which sometimes may also lead to conflict of interest during the course of implementation. Secondly, select the right scope. Trying to go for the largest scope, such as full company, may create a hurdle, especially for a very low mature organization. You better try select a smaller scope and extend it over time. Now, when you select a smaller scope, you have to be extra careful for two main reasons. One, make sure that your scope for certification brings value to the interested parties. As an example, don't go certify your small satellite branch office where all of your personal data of your customers are in a cloud CRM managed by the sales department in the HQ. And also, be careful not excluding some pieces of your system that are actually mandatory for a proper management of your security and privacy. Also, keep in mind that it's not because you have invested into the best security technologies in the world that you are in control. Automation and artificial intelligence could provide some level of simplification and automation nowadays, but it's certainly not the panacea. And finally, as any types of project, a bad planning will affect your ability to deliver on time, quality, and budget. So I hope it was very interesting and valuable information for you. And I wish you a very good conference day, and I speak to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I think I'm on live now. I hope you enjoyed this talk and that it brought value to you and that you understand a little bit more what this new standard, the ISO 27701 is all about. Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'm on. What I will do is perhaps look whether or not there was a question raised during this this session, and of course I'll do my best to provide you the answer to those questions. Let me just have a look. The question I see is ISO 27001 a requirement to get ISO 27001 certified, or can you go immediately for the ISO 27701? That's what I understand without being 2701 certified. That's a good question. In theory, because the 27701 is an extension of the 2701, you may in the future indeed, why not become certified 27701 without necessarily having a certificate to be 27701. Now, the reality is the following: is today there are still, first of all, the norm is still pretty new and needs to be digested also by the accredited bodies. And not all are ready to do that. So typically, in my opinion nowadays, and also in terms of values, because you will have implemented the 2701, in order to, after that, also implement the PIMS on top of it, you will de facto be certified 27001. So in reality, I think even though from a theoretical standpoint, it will probably be possible in the future, nowadays in the current days, the logic would be that you are, when you pass the 27701, you also pass the 2701. I hope that provides sufficient element of answers. Not sure if there are any other questions which I could provide. I'm also looking into the moderator, whether he has other questions for me. All right. Perhaps what I can also provide as an information when we talk about certification, for those who are also familiar with the GDPR, the European regulation for data protection, there is also, as part of the Article 42, this concept of becoming certified. And the question is, would we be certified RGPD if we are certified ISO 27701? The answer to that is not directly. It does not constitute a certification as per this Article 42, but it provides today, it is well recognized as being the state of the art in privacy protection. And by the way, the European Commission, as well as the local authorities, such as the CNIL in France, for example, they have heavily participated in the, let's say, elaboration of that new standard. Okay. I don't see many questions, so eventually my presentation was crystal clear. Of course, if you still have other questions, or if you're interested to know more about how we can also help you to go through that path, or what would be the project that you would need to help you guys go and implement such a norm into your organization, you can always reach out to me, also via email, via LinkedIn, and I will be very happy to help you out and to bring all my experts and my team to help you building a program for privacy management system into your organization. And I think it's almost time for me then to conclude. So it was a real pleasure for me to be there. It was, of course, quite interesting. You might have seen that I'm not used to talk behind the camera, so I'm really looking to meet some of you in the future physically. And in the meantime, I wish you all a very good rest of the day and a very pleasant event. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.